You can see the roots of what a lot of great players today are doing in the way that Tom Dwan was playing 10, 12 years ago, which is kind of crazy to think about. But when you think back to high-stakes poker and what a revelation Tom Dwan was, you can see why now when you see that a lot of the concepts that he's taken are now important in 2019, which is pretty sweet. And we're going to see that happen in a 2008 hand against Phil Laak.
Yeah, Phil Laak, of course, the Unabomber. Unabomber?
I'm pretty sure it's Unabomber.
It's unclear.
It's pretty clear.
No one really knows, and it's fine. He was famous then, he's famous now, and he is also a mathematical thinker and a very smart guy, but he is a bit confounded by this outrageous slings and arrows that Tom Dwan throws at him, which is pretty great.
Yeah, and we see Tom Dwan torture him quite frequently on the breakdown, which is kind of fun. It's probably why Audacious Tweets decided to tweet this at us. Of course, Audacious Tweets included a YouTube link and a timestamp. Do that if you want to suggest a hand for the breakdown.
Please do that. Now, guess what? It's March Madness time. It starts tomorrow, and we've got awesome promos that you guys are going to be super interested in from Nitrogen Sports Poker. That includes a free tournament bracket entry. Just get on there, you do it. They're giving away $5,000 worth of Bitcoin to the top 50 winners. Not all 50 of them, you split it, but still, that's super sweet. And they're doubling it if you make a bet on Nitro this month.
Right.
So that's amazing.
Hey, guess what? There's a really good way to make a bet on Nitro this month, so you can guarantee that you get a double prize in the bracket if you want that. I think you would want that.
You should
right?
want that.
You could do a 4-team parlay, which is probably not something that is, the first thing on your mind when you're thinking, how am I going to sports bet? But if you do a 4-game parlay on Nitrogen on March Madness, you get some pretty sweet deals, Jonathan.
Yeah, they're giving away free bets to everyone who did it, depending on who wins the tournament. But they're giving away at least 1 Bitcoin worth of free bets. They're going to spread it out to everyone who makes this 4-team parlay.
Up to 10 Bitcoin.
And up to 10 Bitcoin worth. That's right, if a lower seeded team wins it. 8 or higher, I should say, team wins. So it's pretty awesome. Now, if you want to get on Nitrogen and you've never done it before, go to our Twitter feed, because that's where you can use the link, which is going to get you other free, cool Poker Guys extras. So that's the best way to do it.
If there's ever a time to get on Nitrogen, it's March Madness.
$1,000, the bet from Dwan with an 8-6 suited. Playing no limit, hold him again. And a check from Laak.
This is it.
The flop, King, Queen, Tray.
Well, we could see a little bit of fireworks here, Barry. Laak's got top pair, Dwan with a flush draw.
And Dwan got to bet 3,400.
And this is a spot here for Laak that he really has no choice but to call. You can't really check raise this hand in a cash game out of position.
He does call. 2 players now and a 4 diamond, so there's the flush for Dwan.
And this is Tom Dwan's image, probably going to get paid off by Laak. If Laak was against a tighter guy, he might just fold the turn. Dwan's going to keep firing with his made hand, and I don't think Laak's going to go anywhere.
He'll bet 8,800.
8,800. Laak does have a higher flush draw with the 9 of diamonds in his hand.
Well, Laak, as you suggested, not going anywhere. He'll call.
And you know that Dwan is going to make a big value bet on the river if another diamond doesn't come.
And it's not a diamond. Deuce of hearts.
Check.
Well, I expect Dwan to make a bet of somewhere between 20 to 25,000. Let's see what he does.
Well, looking like he might go a little bit bigger than that.
Well, again, he's got that bluffy image. Wow, and he overbets the pot. Huge overbet.
Laak trying to get some kind of a read on Dwan.
Again, he's using his image.
Why do I feel like you have air? Are you crippling me or you have air?
Yeah, and Laak says, are you crippling me or you have air? This bet is either a flush or a total bluff.
But you know that I'm holding on. So you want to get paid by a big bet. But you're not sure, so you're trying to push me out. How much is it? 60 what? 2?
Thinking out loud here.
Wow, this is payoff wizardry at its finest. $50K. Who's got that kind of money?
That's unbelievable.
That's a lot of money. Why are you betting so much? You know that I'm holding on, so you're trying to blow off my hand. Because you know I'm in the big blind, I can't have a hand, right? But you know that I like to hold on.
I mean, Laak would never consider making this call against anybody else.
And you know that I know that you love making big bets that with air on the river. QED wouldn't be doing it, because you know that I know that you know.
Don't tell me it's my bad.
It's a lengthy conversation with himself, I'll tell you that.
62, why is he betting 62? It's air or like the ace-3 diamonds.
So we'll see. Still hesitating.
You know I have just like one pair. You know that.
And exactly, Tom
All right,
does
kid.
know that. Oh, unbelievable. This guy is amazing, Barry.
Tom Dwan, ahead of his time in many ways. This might seem like something that you see on the Super High Roller Bowl or places like that these days a little bit more frequently, but at this time, this bet was an important thing in poker and people were confused by it. Like, he's betting 52K into 28K, nobody does that. That might be why Phil Laak called, of course. There's been so much that goes into the metagame since this 2008 moment until today. But man, back then, Phil Laak was confused.
I mean, I would be confused even today if Tom Dwan did this, let me be clear. But yeah, back then, this was just never done. And Tom Dwan was maybe one of the only guys in the world doing things like this, both with bluffs and with value.
Yeah.
It's really hard to play against, of course. And it's not the kind of thing you can really plan for, which makes it extra tough. Like most situations that Phil Laak sees, he's played before, he's thought about it, he's talked about it. He really hasn't played in these situations much at all.
No, and what makes it extra hard to understand from a modern perspective is that Dwan limped with the 8-6
Right.
of diamonds, which I don't imagine he would do these days, although I'm not entirely sure. Maybe he would. Limping goes in and out of fashion now and then. But at the time, Dwan limping means that Phil Laak knows nothing about what's going on here. It means that it's really hard to put him on a range of hands because he could have pocket aces. He could have 8-6 of diamonds. We've seen Dwan limp with aces before on high-stakes poker and things like that. And so I don't think distribution was actually a word that people threw around back then, but that's really the only thing Laak has to go on against a balanced opponent like Dwan as far as how strong his hand is and if he should call or not.
I mean, that is the first question is Tom actually balanced? We know he can have bluffs. Does he have enough bluffs that Phil should even consider calling without a super, super strong hand, I think is question number one.
Yeah, because the question is, how does he have a bluff that makes sense?
Right.
I think in order to make this call, we have to give him some bluffs that don't make sense, some ace-7 of spades type hands that he's just like, you know what, I'm just going to go for it, and I hope this works out for me. I am Tom Dwan, and I'm betting all of the money.
I mean, the only bluffs that even sort of make sense are straight draws, right?
Yeah.
So it feels like Jack 10, maybe 9-10 of spades or something like that.
Ace-10, I don't know.
Yeah, something like that where Dwan just decides, I'm just going to win this pot, and what are you going to do about it? Like, that's all you can beat as Phil at this point. You'd expect Tom to give up or not bet so much, especially on the river, by the way. Tom bets more than pot on the flop, almost pot on the turn. He doesn't need to bet this much as a bluff, you would think, although sometimes he does bet this much as a bluff, even back then. So that is a consideration for Phil.
It is a consideration, and I want to reiterate the era thing here, where nowadays you'll see the super high rollers making bets like this with some frequency. Not all the time, it's still rare, but with some frequency. Back then, Phil Laak was just like, what am I supposed to do with this? I can't let this kid do this to me. I have top pair over here. I'm Phil Laak. Look at my glasses and stuff.
Yeah, and if you're not thinking about distribution, which is, of course, where does this hand fall within the range of hands that I've taken this far, to the river and now are facing this bet, it's really hard to make a good decision. And back then, I don't know that anyone was thinking about it. Very few people, if anyone, were. I don't know that Phil Laak was part of that group. And so now it'd be much easier to say, I have so many better hands in my range. In fact, this is one of the absolute worst hands, if I think about it, that call more than pot on the flop and almost pot on the turn when the third diamond comes. There's just not that many hands I can even show up with here that are worse than king 9 off, maybe 0.
Maybe 0. Maybe he has a couple queen jack type hands. Maybe he, because it's Tom Dwan, calls the turn with those hands.
With like a diamond.
Yeah, and those are easy folds. And he does have a diamond, by the way. He has a king 9 with a 9 of diamonds,
Yeah.
which is a good reason to get to the river, but also a good reason to put it in the part of your distribution where you get to fold once you don't improve on the river. So Phil Laak could decide to fold this based on distribution alone. Of course, he's probably not thinking about distribution. It's 2008. basically Tom Dwan did some mind magic that he was way ahead of the curve on, and it was working great back then.
I mean, it really was. I will say this in Phil's defense, he has a diamond blocker, which is a reason to lean towards calling if you want a reason. Now, I don't think that's enough of a reason because King 9 is so far down on the distribution where Phil can absolutely have flushes. I think if Tom was betting this way and Phil had a flush, he would just be calling unless he had the nuts, probably. So he has so many better hands. He can have sets, he can have two pairs, he can have lots of things. Oh, Tom Dwan, how we love thee. Let us count the ways. Also, we like you too, Phil. Was that one?
I got to 2.
Oh, 2, nice. Yeah, okay, good enough. So what do you guys think about the way this hand was played? Tom deciding to bet so outrageously large on every street is really interesting. Also, the limp is interesting. And of course, Phil's decision to not fold on the river to this massive overbet when he can clearly beat no value, also interesting. Do you like the way these guys played their hands? Do you think they should have made some of the decisions differently? Let us know in the comments. We want to see what you have to say.
What I also would like to see is you listening to the podcast, and I got something to tell you. This did not even come out as a podcast. This is a video-only thing, but that means there was also a podcast that there was no video of. Ooh, you don't want to miss out on that hand. By the way, we also do a podcast every Monday with no video. So there's tons of other content out there, Poker Guys-related content, which I think is our best stuff, honestly, the podcast. We spend 45 minutes. We go super in-depth. We get into the nitty-gritty. It's the best thing we do, and you should check it out.
Absolutely do. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe to this YouTube channel.